Moms, are you raising your kids to believe they can create the life of their dreams? Are you living your life that way as well? Living an awakened life means more than just talking about it. Join host Debbie Pokornik on Vibrant, Powerful Moms as she shares practical tips, stories, and interviews with enlightened guests, all geared at helping you create and live an extraordinary life. It's time to stand firmly in your power and model the life you want for your kids to inherit. And it all begins now on Transformation Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show. I'm your host, Debbie Pokornik, and my mission is to help you create a life you love at work, at home, and at play. Now, for many of us, right now, in April 2020, we are working, playing, and living in the same place, which means that maybe you have more time, that you're able to catch up on things that you never had time for before. It could also mean that you're looking for little escapes, those little moments where you can actually be by yourself and just unwind a little bit or recharge and be there for your kids. It's also possible that you're able to take more time to go inwards, to maybe do some of the meditations or whatever it is that you have been learning about to help you tune in to who you are. And I think that that is a huge part of what this time is all about. Now, I just want to take a little sidebar here and say that to those people who are working in an essential service area, so you don't have this downtime. It's, you're probably not even getting to listen to the show right now. You might get to listen to it a little bit later, but I just want you to know how appreciated you are. And I'm sure many would echo this. I'm just so grateful for what you're doing, for who you are. And quite likely, if you are listening to this, I want you also to know that I'm super impressed, but also very grateful, because not only are you providing that essential service, but you're also making that effort to keep your vibrational energy up. And that's fantastic. That will truly serve you. So thank you if that's you. And I mean that whether you are a clerk in a grocery store, working in a pharmacy, working front lines in the hospitals, or whatever the case might be. So back to today's show. There I was sitting thinking, what should I share that's going to have the greatest impact, make the biggest difference for my listeners? And I'm kind of asking my guides, what would be most relevant to them? Because there's so many directions that I could go in. And suddenly I receive an email from my new friend, Susan Hoskins, and I'm going to say she's new because I didn't know her at all prior to having her come on the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show back last November. But since then, her and I have stayed connected. And so in comes this email from her with a link to her podcast called A Voice from the Heart. And in it, she's talking about COVID-19, and she's talking about how living the way of the one, which is her award-winning book, how living that way could help us all get through this. And I realized, oh my gosh, why don't I just have Susan come back on the show? Because we're talking about the same thing. We might say it differently. We might use different words, different examples. But in the end, our underlying message truly is the same thing. And I thought, I think people might enjoy that kind of a conversation more than just me talking about it, or even just Susan talking about it. So that's what we've decided to do. Now, in case you don't remember Susan, she was on my show back in November. So you can go back to November 2019, and there's 2 shows back to back because we couldn't fit all that we had to say into just one. I don't even think we fit it all into 2. But anyway, she has written several books, 3 of which that I feel are super relevant to right now. So rather than rattle those titles off to you, I think we're going to talk about them on the show. And I want to get Susan on here rather than have her waiting in the wings. You can kind of hear her there. So Susan, welcome back to the Vibrant Powerful Mom Show.
Thank you, Debbie. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's so fun to have you in my life. Like Susan and I are what I call new age friends that we've never actually met in person, and yet our energy is so beautifully connected. It just feels like she's been in my life forever.
I feel exactly the same way. We're soul sisters.
Absolutely. And we truly are. So, yeah, where should we start with this? Something that comes up for me right off the hop is the fact that for many people like you and I who have been playing around, I would say, with learning different tools and techniques and strategies and writing books and maybe doing podcasts or other webinars and things like that, isn't it absolutely amazing how suddenly all of those things, the things we've been saying, are so incredibly relevant?
Oh, Debbie, that's a beautiful point. It's like everything we've studied, everything we've practiced suddenly is just implemented now into our everyday lives. And I feel so compelled to share it with others because we're all going through this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that for many of us, as we were doing this, there was sometimes a sense of, why am I doing this? Like, why is it so hard? Why, why don't people want to hear it?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, the kind of people that are listening to Vibrant, Powerful Moms are people that have tuned in, right? And decided that, yes, this does work for me. This is important to me. This does make a difference in my life. But right now is a time where it's really easy to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I agree. I think we're being challenged to put into practice everything we thought we believed, but
mhm,
now we get to implement it and share it and prove it.
absolutely. So, in line with that, what are, say, I don't know, what are three things that you do every day, or even things that you forget to do and then have to remind yourself, oh, yeah, that's what I should be doing?
Oh, that's a great question. The three things I do is I do shower, put makeup on, and get dressed every day. And then I go into my office to do what we're doing or to record a podcast or something that is really important to my work.
Hmm.
And then the other thing I do, try to do it every day, is, of course, if the weather's good, I take a good solitary walk or I do virtual yoga. So I do that and
Hmm.
just try to also spend time with my hubby and FaceTime, of course, with my precious grandchildren whom I'm not able to see right now because of this.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I have to say, I do not shower makeup every day, but I don't, and I haven't for a long time because I've worked from home for a long time, and I realize that my skin doesn't do well
Mm.
with showering and just the stuff, the products that we use. So I'm clean. Don't get me wrong. I try not to get stinky,
Love
but
it.
I'm thinking, even for moms of younger kids who
Hmm.
suddenly are at home with those kids day in, day out, I can see, like, it's not essential that you do the same things that we do. it,
Exactly.
yeah, in order to be vibrant. What is essential is that you think about it from what brings me pleasure. And so I really love what you said there, because getting outside, walking, gives you pleasure. Even I would think recording your books and
Hmm.
your messages, your podcasts bring you pleasure. And then so does, forgetting what your final thing was.
Spending time with hubby and FaceTiming with my beautiful grandsons.
Yes, yes. And I mean, those are key because they bring you so much pleasure. Not quite as much pleasure as a real in-person hug and tickle might.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm reminded Kenny Rogers died just a few weeks ago,
Yes.
and I remember seeing an interview with him, oh gosh, probably 20 years ago. And he was asked, "Hey, Kenny, what's your secret to living a happy life?" And for some reason, I remembered what he said. He said three things: someone to love, something meaningful to do, and something to look forward to.
Mm,
And boy, for me, those three things have never seemed more important than right now.
yes. Yes. Very nice. So my things, which might seem a little bit different for some people, but really they're not, is grounding. I am spending a lot of time reminding myself to ground several times a day. And part of that is because I know that that tether to Mama Earth, it gets strained, right? When there's so much going
Mm-hmm.
on and fear or anything else can get in the way. And I honestly am not in a place of fear right now. And I think that's on purpose. So I don't want people to hear that and go, well, that's easy for you to say then. I honestly think that I'm not in a place of fear, in part because I am aware that that doesn't serve me. But even more than that, because my job at this time is to help transmute fear. And I can't transmute it for others if I'm in a place of it myself. So that is one of the things that I certainly am doing, a lot of that whole grounding and kind of putting myself in this column of light and bringing in the energy from the divine and creating like a beautiful overflow of the energy from the earth and from the divine, and then having that whoosh out to help transmute what is going on, the negative energies, I'll call them, that are out there. And then one of the other ones, and I forget to do this all the time, but I've been told by the Akashic Record Keepers, this is so important, is to howl like a wolf. And so I've become really good at just basically going, oh, and not doing a super loud one, because sometimes I wake up at night and I can't fall back asleep and I can feel that it's fear around me. It's not my fear, but it's fear of from other people. And I'm transmuting it as I sleep. And so I'm lying there in bed going, oh, trying
Love it.
to wake my husband up. And then the third thing, which is a huge deal for me, is getting outside, whether it be to go for a walk. And where I live, I can walk without there being people everywhere. So it's easy to still keep social or physical distance is what I like to call it. Or just go down to my dock, sit at my dock, or sit out even on my deck, talk to the trees. That nature is such an important part of this for me.
Oh, I get that. I love that.
Right on, right on. So let's talk for a minute about one of your books. Which one? Choose one of the three.
Let's talk about The Way of the One to start.
Okay.
Because something you said really, really reminded me of a podcast I just did where all of us are experiencing this pandemic together, even though our viewpoints, our perspectives are different, but it's still one being. We're all one being sharing the same life and experiencing this together. Mm-hmm. And I loved how even what you and I do each day is different, but it's all tied together. It's all tied together. I love that.
Oh, absolutely. And oh, there was so much. And I mean, I've listened to, I think, 3 of your podcasts now. And all of them have really important pieces that tie in so much with the way of the one. And to everything we talked about in those previous 2 episodes that we did on Vibrant Powerful Moms, which I think is so cool, because you have to take that information and you have to be able to align it, what you're hearing with what's going on right now. And then if you have any trouble with that, or even instead of, I guess, you could just go right to A Voice from the Heart, which is Susan's podcast, and listen to that there, because there is so much. The connection is just so beautifully strong. So I have a page here on The Way of the One that has some key points put into boxes, okay? And there's 4 of the boxes, but I want to read them out because I think that it's worth it for people to hear this and to really think about how they could use this in their life. So, communicating with the divine, including our guides and angels, is an innate ability. I really just want that to sink in. It's an innate ability. We can all do it. And so the next box says we are born with a communication system that exceeds anything that technology can develop. You know, Susan, just the other day I heard someone say, and I don't want to scare people with this, but they were talking about if the internet goes down, here's what I want you to do. You know, and just think about that for a second, because I think that's scary for a lot of us.
Indeed. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, and if we tune into this box I just read, that we're born with a communication system that exceeds anything that technology can develop, we need to know that we actually can communicate without the internet.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing I love is just like how we each spend our day is unique to us. So is this communication with our guides. It's not black and white. It's not like you have to go into meditation, you have to do 3 ohms. It's like, our guides work with us. So I might get my absolute best messages either walking in the park or taking a shower.
Yes.
Or sitting at my computer and I feel a message coming through. And I just love the fact that, yes, it's a communication that adapts to us, which is brilliant.
Well, how about your email coming to me? Right as I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, what should I talk about? What's going to make the biggest difference? And honestly, I didn't recognize it right away. What I thought was, oh, maybe I'll just take one of Susan's episodes and put them here on my show. And then my guides very gently said, no, have a conversation. And then you and I talked because, you're one of my Zoom buddies.
Love it.
Yeah. And here we are now chatting about it on air, which I just think is so cool.
It is, and I'm struck right now as we talk with the fact that I hope that everyone who's listening right now realizes that no matter your circumstances in this moment, you are never alone. We're all connected, as we are likewise connected to our brilliant guides and angels. So we're not alone. We're all in this together.
Yes. Okay, so let me just tell people that as you said that, I got goosebumps all over. I call them angel hugs, okay? And I just got goosebumps all over. And that is one of my signs that my guides are talking to me. So that my guides are with me, that they support me, that they totally believe what we're saying, or not believe, that's not the right word, that they're in alignment. What we're saying is totally in alignment with what they feel is an important message.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I love that.
Beautiful. So the third thing in this Way of the One book that I'm reading, I'm on page 75 in case anyone has the book and wants to take a peek at it. And if you don't have the book, you might want to get it. It says all you have to do to communicate with the divine is hone your natural abilities. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Susan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, whether I hear my guidance as sort of random thoughts that flash through my mind that are not my own words, so much so that if they start coming fast and furiously, I just channel them down, which is what the book Dancing with Angels is. Other people get guidance like movies in the mind or just a sense of knowing what they know. And again, we can develop all our channels, but we do have primary channels of how we communicate.
Absolutely. And I have even said, guides, can you show me a different way or give me this information a different way? Because I'm not totally clear, or I have that moment of self-doubt, right? Like, oh, I think I'm just imagining this. I'm just making it up.
Oh, and boy, do they answer that call. Or
Yes.
even just a request, give me a sign that I cannot miss. Oh boy.
Yes.
That has happened to me. So I really recommend that.
So do I. And not to discount and go, oh, what a funny coincidence. I was just wondering if I should interview that woman, Susan, and suddenly now look at that. There's Susan on a billboard, this name Susan. And I go, what a coincidence. But the reality is it's not a coincidence. It's a sign,
Correct.
right?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. The timing was exactly perfect for us to come together to do this.
E- Absolutely. And the fact that we're able to, right? Even though you're in
Correct.
Colorado and I'm here in Atlanta, it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, beautiful. So I do want to read the last box on this page, because I think it could be soothing to people. And that is that divine intervention is the gift we receive when our lives are in danger and our soul has not agreed before birth to experience. The relevance of that, I think, for
Hmm.
people right now, if you can really hear it, and feel into it, then you can recognize that, okay, whatever happens right now is either meant to happen, like there's a learning in it, there's
Hmm.
something there for me, or I'm making it worse because I'm pushing against it, I'm struggling against it, I'm not letting it just be, or it's not going to happen. So please, Susan,
Oh,
comment.
I would love to, because my whole spiritual quest began as a result back in 1981 of a divine intervention that I received at the last moment that saved me from being at the Hyatt Hotel when the skywalks collapsed, because that's where I'd planned to be, and that's where I'd been the 2 previous Friday nights. And
Right.
so that exploring why I and many other people I interviewed received a divine intervention that kept us safe or kept us away while other people perished haunted me for a long time. Like, was there a divine cast, meaning some people meant to be there and others not? And that took me on a whole 40-year quest,
Mm-hmm.
including obtaining a doctorate to look at it. And what I learned from all that was, yes, before life, our souls choose our major life experiences for our particular objectives. And we will be protected from anything that our souls have not chosen and agreed to experience prior to birth. That gives me so much comfort, Debbie, because I know I'm not a random victim of anything.
Me too. And I have a quick little story, that I would love to share there too. I was in Hawaii, in Maui, with my mom and my dad, my husband and myself, and we were driving to Hana, which is the other side of the island, and it's a really scary road, of sharp twists and turns and mountains, cliffs. It's beautiful, but it is a scary drive. Um, anyway, we got to Hannah, and right as we got to Hannah, we were all just saying how relieved we were that we made it through that trip okay. And all of a sudden, my husband, well, he swore, and he slammed on the brakes, and we all looked up, and there was a car coming dead at us at high speed.
Oh,
And I think the guy was texting, he was looking down, probably at his phone, and there was nowhere for us to go. There was a brick wall to the one side of us, and we weren't going super fast, but we were going fast enough that there was no escaping this car. There was nowhere to go. And I think we all closed our eyes at the moment that was going to be the impact, and nobody knows what happened, but the car did not hit us.
oh my
Somehow the
gosh.
car went around us. And I maintain to this day that was divine intervention. You do not need to be in this accident. And so it
Exactly.
didn't happen, but there's absolutely no way to explain it. My dad does give my husband credit, but my husband is the first to say there was nowhere to go. It was a brick wall or the car. Like, what are we going to hit? And I didn't even have time to get out of the way of the car. So I totally agree with you that recognizing that there is a meaning behind everything that happens in your life, and when we struggle against what's going on for us, when we get into that place of fear and all that, we actually make life a lot more dramatic than it needs to be.
Oh, I so agree. And I quote in the book that our suffering is caused by our resistance to what is and our wish that things were different.
Yeah.
Contentment is the acceptance of things as they are, exactly as they are in the moment.
Yes. And that's what, when we say letting go, just let it go, that's really what it means, is about accepting, okay, here's what's happening. It doesn't mean you have to like what's happening, but accepting it removes the emotion around it.
Exactly. And it's how we started talking today about, okay, what are 3 things you're doing right now in this moment to rather embrace what's going on, to accept what's going on, to move through it, but to gain from it. And that's accepting things. This whole pandemic, this whole situation, it is happening for a reason.
Absolutely.
And by accepting it and learning from it, we all will move through it.
Nice. So we are at the end of our time, but I do want to tell people, if you want to find out more about Susan, you can go to thewayoftheone.org. When she did the shows with me back in November, she provided a free gift, and that's still available. So go to my blog, or just go to her website, and it's a /free BPM giveaway.
Yes,
BPM
correct.
giveaway. You can also go to vibrantpowerfulmoms.com, go to the blog back in November, and you'll see there's links right there. So you'll be able to find it. You can check out her podcast, Voice from the Heart. Did I get that right?
A voice from the heart.
A voice from the heart.
Right. At podbean.com.
Okay, perfect. And actually the 2 episodes I did with Susan show up there too, because apparently that's one of the places that Transformation Talk Radio sends these things out to. So please do check those things out. I'm going to have Susan, you want to come back on with me?
I'd love to.
We'll do this again. This was very fun. I love sharing information this way. So thank you so much, Susan, for coming on with us today. And thank you so much to you, my listeners. I love you. I appreciate you. And I so want to help you get through this very difficult time. So with much respect for you and the journey you are on, this is Debbie Pokornik and her wonderful friend and guest, Susan Hoskins, wishing you a vibrant and powerful day.
You've been listening to Vibrant Powerful Moms with host Debbie Pokornik. If you've enjoyed this show, please share it with others to help spread the love. To find out more about Debbie, pick up free offers from the show, and listen to previous episodes, visit vibrantpowerfulmoms.com.
Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guest, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.